I knew something was wrong the moment I stepped into my office at 6:45 a.m. and heard muffled laughter from the conference room. Call it intuition, or maybe just the culmination of 1,000 tiny clues I'd been ignoring for months. The sound made my stomach turn, but my feet moved forward anyway, each step deliberate on the polished hardwood floors. My name is Hadley, and I was about to catch my husband of 8 years having sex with my best friend of 20. The glass walls of the conference room were fogged up. How fitting. I stood there for a moment, my hand hovering over the door handle, giving them time to hear my presence. They didn't. When I pushed the door open, Bailey was perched on the conference table, her skirt hiked up, while Simon's hands were places they definitely shouldn't have been. "Well," I said, my voice steady despite the roaring in my ears. "This is certainly an innovative use of company resources." They jumped apart like startled teenagers. Bailey's face went ghost white as she yanked her skirt down. Simon, my darling husband, started with the predictable, "This isn't what it looks like." I laughed. I actually laughed. "Really, Simon? Because it looks like you're fucking my best friend on the table where I sign client contracts." "Hadley, please," Bailey whispered, tears already streaming down her face. "I can explain." "Save it." I held up my hand. "You have exactly 2 minutes to get out of my building, both of you." Simon stepped toward me. "Honey, we need to talk about this." 1 minute, 50 seconds. I checked my watch. "And Simon, take your wedding ring off before you leave. You won't be needing it anymore." They gathered their things in painful silence. Bailey tried to catch my eye as she slunk past, but I stared straight ahead, my face a mask of indifference. Inside, I was cataloguing every detail. Her smeared lipstick, his rumpled shirt, the way they both reeked of guilt and cheap excuses. As Bailey reached the door, I called out, "Oh, and Bailey!" She turned, hope flickering across her face. "This is your last time here. Ever." After they left, I walked to my desk, sat down, and opened my laptop like it was any other morning. My hands didn't shake as I typed in my password. My eyes didn't blur as I pulled up my emails. To anyone watching through the glass walls of my office, I was the picture of composure. My assistant Kylie appeared in the doorway 20 minutes later, coffee in hand. One look at my face, and she knew. "It happened," I nodded, taking the coffee. "Just like we suspected. Conference room, real classy. Want me to cancel your morning meetings?" "No." I took a sip, savouring the bitter taste. "But call Earl at Core 1 Group. Tell him I'm ready to move forward with the acquisition. Immediately." Kylie's eyes widened slightly, but she nodded. She knew better than to ask questions. That's why I trusted her with what was coming next. What Simon and Bailey didn't know, what no one knew except Kylie and a select few others, was that I had been planning their downfall for weeks. The signs of their affair had been obvious enough. The late meetings, the deleted texts, the sudden interest they had in each other's social media. But I wasn't about to confront them with just suspicions and tears. No, I needed something better, something permanent. My phone buzzed. A text from Simon. "Please, we need to talk. I'll explain everything." I deleted it without responding. Let him sweat. Let them both sweat. Because while they'd been sneaking around playing their little game of betrayal, I'd been playing a much bigger one. And unlike them, I was playing to win. I opened my bottom drawer and pulled out a folder marked Core 1 Acquisition. Inside was the paperwork that would give me controlling interest in the parent company of Bailey's PR firm. The same firm that, through some creative accounting, Simon had been using to hide certain financial irregularities that would interest the SEC quite a bit. "Kylie," I called out, "get me Lisa on the phone. It's time to tell my aunt what's really been going on. Because if there's one thing my family taught me growing up, it's that revenge, like everything else worth doing, requires careful planning and perfect timing." And I had both. 3 weeks earlier, I had been sitting in this same office when the first piece of evidence landed in my lap. A forwarded email from Kylie marked urgent, financial records showing unusual transfers between Simon's personal account and Bailey's firm. I wasn't snooping, Kylie had said, perched nervously on the edge of my desk. But when I was reconciling the quarterly reports, these numbers didn't add up. I studied the spreadsheet, my coffee growing cold. How long have you known? About the money? 2 days. About them. She hesitated. I saw them having dinner at Lucia's last month. They didn't see me. And you didn't tell me immediately because you're not just my boss, Hadley. I wanted proof first. I looked up at her then. Really looked. Kylie had been my assistant for 3 years, and I'd never fully appreciated how sharp she was. Thank you. For being thorough. She nodded, then pulled out her phone. There's more. I started tracking their movements after Lucia's. She showed me a series of photos. Simon and Bailey entering her apartment building, leaving together in the early morning, sharing intimate moments they thought no one could see. You'd make a decent private investigator, I said, scrolling through the evidence of my life unraveling. I prefer working for you. Kylie paused. What are you going to do? I leaned back in my chair, mind already racing through scenarios. First, I'm going to make a call. Earl from Core 1 picked up on the second ring. Hadley, I was just about to call you. Let me guess, you've reconsidered my offer? The board's nervous about an outside acquisition. They should be more nervous about their Q3 earnings report. I kept my voice light, especially given certain irregularities I've noticed. Silence on the line. Then, what irregularities? The kind that make shareholders jumpy, but I'm sure we could keep things stable during a smooth transition of ownership. You're blackmailing me. I'm negotiating. There's a difference. I smiled into the phone. Shall we discuss terms? That was how it started. Each day after, I added another piece to my chessboard. While Simon thought I was focused on our marketing consultancy, I was quietly arranging the takeover of Core 1 Group. While Bailey sent me chatty texts about weekend plans, I was documenting every suspicious transaction that had passed through her firm. Your brother Jet called again, Kylie announced, interrupting my memory of those first moves. He wants to know if you're coming to Sunday brunch. Tell him I wouldn't miss it. I stood up, straightening my blazer. And get me Earl on the line. It's time to finalize the paperwork. As if on cue, my phone lit up with a message from an unknown number. Simon Wolfe, financial irregularities. Evidence attached. I opened the file, feeling a cold smile spread across my face. There it was. Proof of Simon's creative accounting, his hidden accounts, the money he'd been skimming, all tied directly to Bailey's firm. Kylie, I called out. She appeared instantly. Cancel my afternoon. We're going to the Core 1 offices. Now? Simon and Bailey just gave me their grand performance. Time for mine. Earl was waiting in the lobby when we arrived. He looked nervous, tugging at his tie. The board's assembled upstairs. Perfect. I adjusted my own jacket, checking my reflection in the elevator's mirrored walls. By the way, those financial records you sent? Very helpful. He blinked. What records? I turned to him slowly. The anonymous tip about Simon's activities. That wasn't you. Earl shook his head, looking confused. I haven't sent you anything today. Well, that was interesting. Someone else was playing this game too. But who? And why help me? The elevator doors opened to the boardroom, where 12 anxious faces turned to watch me enter. I took my seat at the head of the table, placing my folder deliberately in front of me. Lady and gentlemen, I began, I believe you'll find the terms of this acquisition more than fair, especially given certain information that's recently come to light. As I laid out my proposal, I couldn't help but think of Simon and Bailey, probably huddled somewhere planning how to explain themselves. They had no idea that their little drama this morning wasn't the beginning of their problems. It was just the opening act. Sunday brunch at my family's estate was always an exercise in restraint. Today, watching my brother Jet hold court at the head of the table while discussing his latest business venture, I found myself gripping my mimosa glass a little tighter than usual. Of course, the market's shifting, Jet was saying, gesturing with his fork. But that's where emotional intelligence comes in, something our little Hadley here still needs to work on. I took a deliberate sip of my drink. Fascinating. Tell me more about emotional intelligence, Jet. Like that time you blamed me for crashing Dad's car when we were teenagers. Ancient history. He waved his hand dismissively. I'm talking about your current situation. Word travels fast in our circles, sis. Simon called me. The table went quiet. Aunt Lisa, who had been quietly buttering her toast, set down her knife. Did he now? I kept my voice level. And what did my cheating husband have to say? Hadley! My mother's scandalized voice cut through the tension. We don't discuss such matters at brunch. No, Mother. We just pretend everything's fine while judging each other silently. Much more civilized. Jet leaned forward. He says you're not answering his calls, that you're being unreasonable. Unreasonable? I laughed, the sound sharp enough to make my mother wince. I caught him fucking my best friend on my conference room table. Please, tell me what would be a reasonable response. Language! Mother pressed her hand to her chest. Oh, I'm sorry. Would you prefer I say I caught him making love to Bailey, having relations, creating a hostile work environment? Aunt Lisa suddenly snorted into her coffee, trying to hide her smile. This is exactly what I mean, Jet said, pointing his fork at me again. You're letting emotions cloud your judgment. In business, I cut him off, we call this a hostile takeover. What are you planning, Hadley? His eyes narrowed. I stood up, smoothing my dress. You know what I remember most about that car incident, Jet? Not that you blamed me, not that Dad believed you, but that you told me afterward, this is just business, sis. Nothing personal. I picked up my purse. Well, now I'm making it my business. Hadley, sit down, my mother pleaded. We haven't even had the main course. I've lost my appetite. I turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Jet? Tell Simon if he calls you again, he might want to ask about Core 1 Group. I'm sure that will give you both something interesting to discuss. I made it halfway to my car before Aunt Lisa caught up with me. That was quite a show, she said, falling into step beside me. I learned from the best. This family's full of performers. True. She touched my arm, stopping me. But what you're planning? Are you sure? I looked at her carefully. You know something. I know Simon's been cooking books for years. I know Bailey's firm isn't as clean as they pretend. She smiled slightly. And I know who sent you those financial records. That was you. Let's just say I have friends in interesting places. And I've watched this family underestimate you for far too long. I felt tears threatening for the first time since catching Simon and Bailey. Why help me? Because 20 years ago, your uncle did the same thing to me, and your father, my own brother, told me to keep quiet for the family's sake. She squeezed my arm. Sometimes karma needs a little push. My phone buzzed. A text from Kylie. Earl called. Board signed off on everything. We're good to go. Speaking of karma, I showed Lisa the message. Want to help me push a little harder? She linked her arm through mine. Lead the way, niece. And Hadley? Her voice turned serious. Whatever happens next, remember, you're not alone in this. As we walked to my car, I could see Jet watching from the dining room window. He'd always seen me as the emotional little sister, the one who needed his guidance and protection. He had no idea I'd learned from every slight, every dismissal, every time he'd used me as a stepping stone. Now it was my turn to step up. Aunt Lisa, I said as we got into my car, how would you like to attend a corporate gala next weekend? I hear it's going to be quite eventful. She fastened her seatbelt, grinning. Wouldn't miss it for the world. Neither would I. Because while Simon and Bailey thought they'd broken my heart, they'd actually just freed me to show everyone, especially my family, exactly what I was capable of. And I was capable of so much more than they'd ever imagined. Ms. Bailey Moore's office, Kylie announced, pushing open the glass door. The office was empty. Bailey was at lunch, probably stress-eating after this morning's demotion. I ran my finger along Bailey's pristine desk, remembering all the times we'd shared lunch here, trading secrets and dreams. Start with the computer. Kylie plugged in a USB drive while I examined the photos on Bailey's wall. There we were at her 30th birthday, arms around each other, champagne glasses raised. The frame next to it showed Bailey, Simon and me at last year's Christmas party. My husband's hand was on Bailey's waist. How had I missed that? Got it, Kylie said, eyes on the screen. Downloading her emails now and… Interesting. What? Draft folder. Looks like she's been working on a harassment lawsuit against you. Dating back 3 months. I moved behind Kylie to read over her shoulder. There it was. Detailed documentation of supposed hostile work environment claims, carefully crafted to make me look unhinged and aggressive. My best friend, I said softly. She wasn't just sleeping with my husband. She was planning to destroy me professionally too. There's more, Kylie scrolled down. Communications with Simon about company financials. They were going to use the lawsuit as leverage to force you to sell your shares at a discount. A knock at the door made us both jump. Earl stood there looking uncomfortable. The transfer just completed. Core 1 Group is officially under your control. Perfect timing. I nodded to Kylie, who removed the USB drive. How's the project funding reallocation going? As requested, Bailey's biggest accounts have been reassigned. Her team was informed an hour ago. My phone buzzed. Simon calling again. This time I answered. Hadley, finally. We need to talk about the Harrison Group investment opportunity, I cut in smoothly. I was just going to call you about that. A pause. What? The deal you've been trying to land. I heard they're ready to commit. Big money. Life-changing money. How did you… I mean, yes. Yes, they are. Meet me at Café Laurent in 30 minutes. We'll discuss it. I hung up and turned to Earl. Is everything set with the fake Harrison Group documents? He nodded. The investment proposal looks legitimate. No one would spot the irregularities without a forensic audit. Which is exactly what the SEC will do when they receive an anonymous tip next week. I checked my watch. Kylie, send those emails to my secure account. Earl, make sure the gala arrangements are finalized for Saturday. Already done, Kylie said. Your dress arrived this morning? Red, like you requested? Perfect for making an entrance. I took one last look around Bailey's office. Let's go. I have a lunch date with my husband. Simon was already at the cafe when I arrived, nervously shredding a napkin. He stood when he saw me, relief washing over his face. Hadley, thank God, about this morning. The Harrison Group, I interrupted, sitting down. Tell me about the deal. He blinked, then shifted into business mode. Right. Yes, they're prepared to invest $50 million, but they need certain assurances about the financial structure. You mean they need us to hide their money through Bailey's firm? Like you've been doing with other clients? The colour drained from his face. I don't know what you're… Save it. I pulled out a folder and slid it across the table. Sign these papers authorizing the transfer. Do it now, and maybe I won't mention your creative accounting to the authorities. His hands shook as he read the documents. This would give you complete control of the investment. Consider it part of our divorce settlement. Hadley, please. We can work this out. What happened with Bailey? Was just business? I smiled coldly. Funny, that's exactly what this is too. He signed the papers, probably thinking he could find a way out later. He had no idea he'd just authorized a completely fraudulent transaction that would lead straight back to him. One more thing, I said, standing up. The corporate gala on Saturday. Don't bother coming. Your invitation has been revoked. What? But the Harrison Group representatives will be there. No, they won't. I leaned down close to his ear. But the SEC might be. I'd start calling lawyers if I were you. I left him there, staring at his empty coffee cup. Outside, Kylie was waiting with the car. How did it go? Like taking candy from a baby. I checked my phone, a text from Bailey begging to explain about the project reassignments. 1 down, 1 to go. Is everything ready for the gala? All set. It's going to be quite a show. Good. I smiled as we pulled away from the curb, because I planned to bring down the house. The red dress was a statement, blood-red silk that whispered power with every step. As I entered the grand ballroom of the Meridian Hotel, conversations stuttered to a halt. Heads turned. Glasses paused midway to lips. Quite an entrance, Aunt Lisa murmured beside me, elegant in black. I count at least 12 dropped jaws. Make that 13. I nodded toward Bailey, who stood frozen by the champagne fountain. She was wearing the blue dress we'd picked out together months ago, back when I was still her friend, back when I was still blind. Hadley, she stepped forward, voice trembling. I've been trying to reach you. Bailey, don't you look lovely? I air-kissed her cheek, feeling her flinch. Though you might want to enjoy the open bar while you can. I hear unemployment benefits don't cover $1,000 champagne. Her face crumpled. Please, can we talk somewhere private? There's so much I need to explain. Like the harassment lawsuit you were drafting? I watched her eyes widen in horror. Or maybe your creative approach to client billing? No need to explain, darling. Your emails did that for you. She grabbed my arm. You went through my computer. Careful. I removed her hand. That could be construed as workplace harassment. Oh, wait. You don't have a workplace anymore, do you? You're enjoying this, she whispered. Almost as much as you enjoyed fucking my husband. Earl appeared at my elbow. Hadley, the board members are asking for you. It's almost time. Of course. I turned back to Bailey. Do stay for the announcements. I think you'll find them illuminating. I made my way through the crowd, accepting congratulations from people who had no idea why they were congratulating me. Yet, Kylie materialized with a fresh glass of champagne. Simon's here, she whispered. Back corner, looking nervous. He should be. I spotted him by the emergency exit, phone pressed to his ear. Has he received the SEC notice yet? Delivered to his office an hour ago, express mail. Perfect timing. I checked my reflection in a nearby mirror, adjusting a stray curl. How long until… Hadley, Simon's voice behind me, tight with panic. We need to talk. Now. I turned slowly. About the Harrison Group, or about the federal investigation into your financial practices? His face went pale. How did you… No. Oh, Simon. I patted his cheek. I know everything. Every transaction, every hidden account, every little scheme you and Bailey cooked up. The SEC knows too, by the way. Consider it my parting gift. You can't do this, he hissed. I'll tell them about your offshore accounts, the tax… Go ahead. I smiled. Those accounts, all legal, all documented. Unlike yours. But please try to threaten me again. It's adorable. The microphone squealed as Earl took the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention… You should find a good seat, I told Simon. You won't want to miss this. Earl's voice boomed through the ballroom. As CEO of Core One Group, it gives me great pleasure to announce some exciting changes. First, please join me in welcoming our new majority shareholder. I moved toward the stage, feeling every eye in the room follow me. Bailey's face was a mask of confusion. Simon looked like he might vomit. Ms. Hadley Wolfe. The applause was deafening. I took the microphone, surveying my kingdom. Thank you, Earl. And thank you all for being here tonight. As your new majority owner, I have some immediate changes to announce. First, a complete audit of all financial transactions from the past 5 years. Simon's glass slipped from his hand, shattering on the marble floor. Second, a restructuring of senior management, effective immediately. And finally, I locked eyes with Bailey. A zero-tolerance policy for workplace misconduct. No exceptions. The room erupted in whispers. I saw Bailey stumble backward, clutching her purse. Simon was already heading for the exit. Please enjoy the rest of your evening, I concluded. Some of you might want to call your lawyers in the morning. As I stepped down from the stage, Aunt Lisa appeared with fresh champagne. Well done, though your brother won't be happy about this power play. Jet can join the club. I clinked glasses with her. Speaking of family drama, he should be arriving any minute. You invited him? No. I smiled as the ballroom doors burst open. But I knew Simon would. Jet stormed in, face thunderous. Behind him I could see Kylie giving me a thumbs up, right on schedule. For them, the night was just beginning, I murmured, watching my brother push through the crowd. For me, it was close to Judgment Day. And I was ready for every second of it. What the hell do you think you're doing? Jet's voice carried across the ballroom as he reached me, his expensive suit slightly disheveled from his rushed entrance. Having a drink with Aunt Lisa, care to join us? I raised my glass. Cut the act. He grabbed my arm, trying to pull me toward a quieter corner. Simon just called me. Federal investigation. Core 1 takeover. Have you lost your mind? I yanked my arm free. Touch me again, and security will escort you out. You can't threaten me. I'm your brother. And this is my company now. I nodded to Earl, who was already moving toward us with 2 security guards. Would you like to discuss this privately, or should we continue making a scene? Jet's jaw clenched, but he followed me to a side room. Aunt Lisa slipped in behind us, closing the door on the murmuring crowd. You've gone too far. Jet started pacing. This isn't just about Simon and Bailey anymore. Do you have any idea how this affects the family? You mean how it affects you? I perched on the edge of a desk. Worried about those joint ventures you have with Simon? The ones you didn't tell me about? He stopped pacing. How did you find out? The same way I found everything else. I did my homework, brother dear. Something you taught me, remember? This is different. This is business. I cut him off. Like when you blamed me for crashing Dad's car? Or when you convinced him not to fund my first startup? Was that just business too? That was years ago. We were kids. No, Aunt Lisa spoke up. That was calculated. Just like when you helped cover up what my husband did to me. Jet had the decency to look uncomfortable. Lisa, that was different. Was it? She moved to stand beside me. Or was it just another example of this family protecting the wrong people? My phone buzzed. A text from Kylie. SEC agents just arrived. Simon's being questioned in the lobby. Speaking of protection, I showed them the message. Looks like Big Brother won't be able to help Simon this time. Jet's face went pale. You actually did it. You actually called the feds. No, Simon did that to himself. I just made sure they knew where to look. A commotion outside drew our attention. Through the glass panel, we could see Bailey being escorted out by security, mascara running down her face. Simon was in handcuffs near the entrance, 2 federal agents flanking him. Jesus Christ, Jet whispered. Hadley, this isn't just revenge anymore. This is destruction. This is justice. I stood up. And a lesson. About consequences, about loyalty, and about underestimating me. The board will fight this, he threatened. They won't let you. The board already approved everything. I pulled out my phone, showing him the signed documents. Unanimously. Turns out they're not fans of financial fraud either. A knock at the door, Kylie entered with Earl. Everything's proceeding as planned. The press is outside. Perfect. I smoothed my dress. Earl, please make sure the official statement is released on schedule. Kylie, have my car brought around. Hadley. Jet grabbed my wrist. Don't do this. We can find another way. I looked down at his hand, then back at his face. You know what's funny? All those years you spent telling me I was too emotional, too weak to handle business. You never realized I was learning. From every slight, every betrayal, every time this family chose power over loyalty. We're still family. Are we? I pulled free again. Because family doesn't try to destroy each other. Family doesn't conspire behind each other's backs. Family doesn't... Enough! Aunt Lisa's sharp voice cut through the tension. Jet, let her go. You've controlled this family long enough. He stepped back, looking suddenly older. You've changed, Hadley. No. I moved to the door. I've just finally become what you always pretended to be, someone who understands that business is business. Outside, cameras were flashing as Simon was led to a waiting police car. Bailey was nowhere to be seen. The empire they'd tried to build on my destruction was crumbling, and I had front row seats to the show. Kylie, I called as I walked toward my car. Make sure Jet gets the full financial report. He should know exactly what his friend Simon has cost him. And Bailey? Send her termination papers to her lawyer, along with copies of those harassment lawsuit drafts she was working on. I smiled. Let's see how she likes being on the receiving end of legal action. As my car pulled away from the chaos, I caught one last glimpse of Jet in my rearview mirror. He stood alone on the steps, watching his carefully constructed world fall apart, just like I had watched mine. The morning after the gala, I sat in my office watching the news coverage cycle through the same headlines. Corporate takeover leads to federal fraud investigation. Power couple's empire crumbles. Betrayal in business. A modern Shakespeare. Kylie appeared in my doorway, looking exhausted but triumphant. Bailey's lawyer called. They want to negotiate. No negotiations. I didn't look up from my screen. She tried to destroy me. Now she can experience what that feels like. There's something else. Kylie hesitated. Something I found in her emails that I didn't show you before. She placed a printed email on my desk. As I read it, my hands began to shake. They were planning this for over a year, I whispered, scanning the correspondence between Bailey and Simon. The lawsuit, the financial scheme, everything? Keep reading. My eyes caught on a particular paragraph. Once Hadley's out of the picture, we can merge the companies. Her family will back us. Jet's already on board. She'll never see it coming. The intercom buzzed. Ms. Wolfe, your brother and aunt are here. Perfect timing. I straightened my spine. Send them in. Jet burst through the door first, waving his phone. The SEC just froze my accounts. All of them. Collateral damage, I said coolly. You should have thought about that before conspiring with Simon. I never... Save it. I slid Bailey's email across the desk. You were in on it from the start. He read it, his face draining of colour. Aunt Lisa peered over his shoulder, her expression hardening. You knew, she asked him. You knew what they were planning against your own sister? It wasn't like that, he protested. Simon said it was just business strategy. Strategy? I stood up slowly. They were going to accuse me of harassment, force me out of my own company, and you helped them plan it. My own brother. Hadley, get out. Please, just listen. Security. I pressed the intercom. Please escort my brother from the building. He's no longer welcome here. As security appeared, Jet's face twisted with anger. You think you've won? You think this makes you powerful? Look around, Hadley. You're alone. You've burned every bridge you had. No. Aunt Lisa stepped between us. Not every bridge. After Jet was gone, Lisa turned to me. You okay? I thought I'd feel better, I admitted. More satisfied. Revenge is like that. The taste isn't as sweet as we expect. My phone buzzed. Simon's lawyer. Speaking of taste, I answered the call on speaker. Ms. Wolfe, my client is willing to offer a full confession in exchange for... No deals! I cut him off. Your client committed fraud, conspired against me, and cheated on me. He can enjoy explaining all of that to a judge. He'll implicate you in some of these transactions. Try it. Unlike Simon, I kept receipts. Very clean, very legal receipts. After hanging up, I slumped in my chair. When does it stop hurting? It doesn't, Lisa said softly. But it gets easier. And you get stronger. Kylie knocked gently. Sorry to interrupt, but there's something you need to see. She pulled up a video on her tablet, Bailey giving an interview outside her apartment. Hadley was always jealous of me, Bailey was saying, tears in her eyes. She's unstable, vindictive. This whole thing is just her getting revenge because her husband preferred me. I switched it off. Send that to our lawyers. Add defamation to the lawsuit. Already done. Kylie smiled. Also, you should know, that interview just cost her any chance at a settlement. The board saw it and voted to pursue maximum damages. Good. I turned to the window, watching the city below. Let her learn what real consequences feel like. What now? Lisa asked. Now? I turned back to them. Now we rebuild, but differently this time. No more family obligations, no more toxic loyalty, no more... My phone buzzed again, an email from my mother. What have you done to this family? I deleted it without reading further. No more pretending, I finished. From now on, we do things my way. Lisa squeezed my shoulder. And what way is that? I picked up Bailey's printed email, tearing it slowly into pieces. The honest way, the hard way, the way that ensures no one ever underestimates me again. They never will, Kylie said quietly. Not after today. Looking at these two women, my aunt who had survived her own betrayals, my assistant who had helped me survive mine, I realized Jet was wrong. I wasn't alone. I was just finally surrounded by the right people. Get me the Core 1 board on the line, I told Kylie. It's time to start Phase 2. Because while revenge might not taste as sweet as expected, victory tasted just fine. The morning newspaper landed on my desk with a satisfying thud. Former CEO pleads guilty to financial fraud, the headline declared. Below it, a photo of Simon being led into the courthouse, looking defeated and years older than when I'd last seen him. Coffee? Kylie offered, setting down my usual cup. You might need it. Bailey's interview is trending. I pulled up the video on my laptop. There she was, my former best friend, on a major business network, looking polished, but haunted. I lost everything, Bailey was saying. My career, my reputation, my best friend, all because I thought I deserved more than I had. And your relationship with Simon Wolfe. A mistake that destroyed 3 lives. Hadley? Bailey looked directly at the camera. If you're watching, I'm sorry. You were right about karma. I closed the laptop. Send flowers to the network studio, with a card that reads, "Thanks for the closure." That's cold, Aunt Lisa said, walking in. I love it. How's the family damage control going? Your mother's still not speaking to you. Jet's company is struggling without Simon's connections. But, she smiled. The board just voted me in as chairwoman. Seems they appreciated my whistleblowing about certain financial irregularities. My phone buzzed. Earl was calling. Good news? I answered. Better. The merger's approved. Core 1 is officially part of your portfolio. And the employees? Safe. As promised. Except for certain members of upper management who were involved in the fraud. I hung up and turned to Kylie. Schedule a company-wide meeting for tomorrow. It's time to rebuild this place properly. Already done. Oh, and this came for you. She handed me an envelope. Inside was a letter from Simon's prison. I never meant for it to go this far. I thought I could have everything. You, Bailey, the money. I was wrong. I know sorry isn't enough, but I dropped the letter in the shredder without finishing it. Feel better? Lisa asked. Getting there. I stood up and walked to the window. You know what the strangest part is? I thought revenge would feel like winning. But it just feels like freedom, she finished. Freedom to be who you really are, without trying to please everyone else. My office door opened again, Kylie with more news. The investment team is ready for you. They're excited about the new direction. Speaking of new directions, Lisa said, have you thought about my proposal? I had. She wanted to merge our companies, create something bigger than either of us had built alone. But this time, it would be a partnership of equals. No betrayals, no hidden agendas. I have conditions, I said. Name them. Complete transparency, weekly audits, and... I smiled. We hire based on loyalty and talent, not family connections. Done. She extended her hand. Partners? As I shook it, Kylie cleared her throat. There's one more thing. Jet's downstairs. He's asking to see you. What should I tell him? Lisa asked. I thought about my brother, about family, about bridges burned and bridges worth rebuilding. Tell him. Tell him he can make an appointment, like anyone else. And if he actually does, then maybe he's finally learned something too. My phone lit up with another text, my mother trying again. Family should forgive. I typed back, family should deserve forgiveness first. Looking around my office at the women who had helped me rise from the ashes of betrayal, I felt something settle in my chest. Not peace, exactly, but purpose. Kylie, I called, get me the files on those new startup proposals, the ones run by women who were told they were too emotional for business. She grinned. Already on your desk? Lisa, ready to change the face of corporate America? Born ready, niece. I sat down at my desk, picking up the first file. Then let's get to work. We have an empire to build. Because while revenge might have started this journey, it wasn't what would define it. What would define it was what we built from the ashes. Something stronger, cleaner, better. I burned the bridges behind me, but for the first time in my life, I wasn't looking back. The view ahead was far too interesting. First order of business, I announced, opening my laptop. Let's talk about how we're going to help other women recognize snakes before they strike. Lisa and Kylie took their seats, ready to plan. This wasn't an ending. This was just the beginning of something much bigger than revenge. And I was finally ready to lead the way.